Well, guys, hello and good evening, and welcome to Punish for Protecting News this wonderful evening. We have an amazing guest for you tonight that I'm very excited to interview. I've got to see her TikToks, where the reason I named it An Attorney with Personality, well, you're going to get to see that for your very self tonight. And without further ado, let me show you one of her TikToks, and you'll see why.
Losing his mind. And I'm reaping all the benefits.
I thought that was so funny. That was off of, what is that? The Wedding Singer, The Wedding Singer. And I have one more that I want to show you before I bring her out.
Clap, clap, clap.
So here is Heather from O'Connor Law. Heather.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me on here. I'm super excited to talk with you and, chat about family law and all the great things that come along with it.
Yeah, and I have a video that I'm going to show from TikTok that I don't know if you saw it or not. Did you see it or not in advance?
I don't think I did. So okay, I think this is going to be like a true blind react.
Good. That's even better. And I love that you are just you're just very easygoing, and you definitely have a great personality. And people need that because especially when you're going through, and I know as an advocate, they're going through some tremendous heavy stuff. So it's good to have somebody that's not just in your corner, but that kind of tries to lighten it up a little bit and make it at least a little less stressful. So, but they can find you, first of all, on TikTok, right? And we have here O'Connor Family Law.
Yep.
Right.
So it's just one big old word, O'Connor Family Law. That's our TikTok, our Instagram, our YouTube. We tried to keep it, I think it's even our Facebook. So
it's all of them. So that's good.
I think so.
You guys should definitely check her out and like her on TikTok and all the others that she just mentioned. So Heather, lay the foundation. How did you become a lawyer? Why did you become a lawyer? And what do you think of family law before I show my TikTok?
Okay. So I think to start with the last question of what I think of family law, obviously it's what I do. I love doing what I do. But the family court system, I don't know if I can swear on here. I probably should have checked with you. I'll try not to. The family court system is not efficient. It's not fun. It's convoluted. The court system sucks. If that one's okay, I don't know.
It's fine.
So I think to start there,
it gets two thumbs up.
How I became an attorney is I used to be a professional figure skater. So my life involved, to the point after I stopped competing, I was training kids. So I got married really young. I did one of those, oh crap, I'm pregnant, so now we're getting married things. Married a guy that we were going to make it work because religion, you had to get married. I couldn't have a baby and not be married. So we got married really young. I was 21. We ended up having 3 more kids. And when my youngest was 1, I was coaching figure skating at the time, but the economy crashed. It was back in the early 2000s. And I went from, teaching a number of kids every single week to almost nothing. And during this period of time, I won't get into the details of my marriage, but it was not good. And my husband at one point had said, if you ever leave me, I will take everything from you. Your kids will hate you. You won't have a home. You'll be lucky if you sleep on a park bench. And the place that I was in, I actually believed him. And it was really scary for me. But there were some things that happened that kind of forced my hand into filing for a divorce. And while I was going through my divorce sucks. It's not fun. It's not a pleasant experience. But my attorney was good. He seemed to know all the legal words and the things that he was supposed to say that I didn't really know what he was talking about. But I was sitting in court one day with a woman next to me, and we were just sharing, kind of our backgrounds and where we were. And she said, my lawyer's okay, but just doesn't get it. And I was like, that's how I feel. And I went home that night and I sat in my, and I remember looking up at the ceiling going, like, what is it? And it is the roller coaster of emotions that you go through when you're getting a divorce, where 1 second you're on top of the world because you are changing your life and you're like, this is going to be so much better. And then 30 seconds later, it's like the most crazy bipolar ride because you crash down at the bottom and you're like, oh crap, my life is going to be a mess. What am I doing? It's the end of something you believed in. Most people don't get married thinking I'm going to get a divorce. They think I'm going to get married, I'm going to make this work. So there's all these roller coasters, and there's, I remember walking into court and just that tightness in your feeling in your stomach where you want to puke. Like it's just a horrible, horrible feeling. And then I saw my ex-husband and I wanted to puke more, but then at the same time, like I wanted to run up and hug him and be like, what are we doing? Like, can we please make this okay? And then as we're leaving court, he's walking through the parking lot. And I remember being like, if I just step on the gas really hard, like I could just run him over. But you go through this.
But of course, you'd pick him up and give him a hug after that.
I mean, we just got out of court. It wasn't a good day.
No, it's horrible.
But you go through this flood of emotions. And, I think divorce, what I did immediately, because I decided during my divorce to become an attorney, because I was like, I think I can do this better than what I'm seeing out there. And what I knew from that point was you can pay $100,000 for a legal document that has all the right words on it, that says you get the kids, you get the house, you get the retirement, you can get everything you want. But if you do not change yourself, change your behaviors, change your perceptions, change your reactions, you are going to end up in the exact same situation you were in to begin with. So I think that people, when they're going through a divorce, need to start looking on that outlook. The divorce is only the legal part of the divorce is only one part of moving on. It's everything else that goes around it. It's figuring out your finances, figuring out who you are, because most people lose themselves within a marriage. And so it's that entire process that I think goes so hand in hand. And when I went through my divorce, I had 3 kids. They were all under the age of 6. I had only graduated high school because figure skating was my life. I had never gone to college. So with 3 kids under the age of 6, I went back to community college. I went to undergrad. I went to law school. I graduated law school. So I went straight through 7 years. My kids pretty much grew up with me as a student. And that was my goal from day one, was to eventually open my own firm and build something that I thought could really change people's lives when they're going through that divorce system. And unfortunately, the family court system still sucks. And it's like, you try so hard and then they try to keep you down, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and it is it's just awful all around, and it's definitely, and it's awesome what you're doing, and the reason I really wanted to bring you on, I watched you with Jay. For anybody that doesn't know who Jay is, Jay Shore, he's the other ADA expert advocate in this country. There's another one out there, I don't know who, but there's another one out there. And it was really interesting. I got to see just the tail end. I waited and waited. I wanted to see it, and I thought he was going on later with you.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, darn it. And matter of fact, Hannah and I were like waiting. I'm like, she's on now. And we went and watched it. But, it was good to see, like, just the fact that, I deal with a lot of attorneys, and I see, like, I just had a case recently in Pennsylvania. An hour away, we had the most wonderful, ADA coordinator, and they couldn't do enough for us and all that. And then an hour in another direction in Pennsylvania, they couldn't do enough to keep us out. And the attorney was so corrupt. He's literally robbing my client blind and literally doing nothing, that even some of the most shadier attorneys would have jumped on some of the things that just happened, and she could have won. And it's to protect her children. And it's horrible to sit there. It wrenches my heart. So, that's what we do. We're sitting here trying to restore as much as possible the sanctity of family and children's safety. If you have 2 good parents, and they're both safe, and unfortunately you have the unfortunate breaking up of the family, don't break the children more. Like, that's right. Just horrible. Right. So to have somebody that is an attorney, and my clients, a lot of times they're looking at some of these people, and they're like, oh my gosh, I could do a better job myself, and I can talk more, and I can say what needs to be said, and I can object when I need to, when they don't. And there's things that maybe they throw at us that we never talked about. We did, you know, we got hit with one of them, you know, and I could have responded. And, you know, if I can get them to the point where they're not horribly traumatized, they do a better job. It's really sad. They do a better job. So to have somebody, when they do need an attorney, you know, because there's cases that are so convoluted, and there's things that people don't know, like legally, I can handle the ADA stuff and the other things. But like when it comes to certain things, I tell them, listen, you know, I'm not a bar member. I don't file your motions and things like that. And we do need good attorneys that are, you know, not just reputable, but have a good personality like you do, because they're going through hell. Like these people are going through hell, and they need to have that support system. So I was really happy to see that with you. I have a good question. I have an interesting question. Have you ever seen anybody who came in for a divorce and then ended up working out their relationship?
Yes. Yes. It's happened a couple times. I want to say the worst one, but I believe they're still together. I haven't checked lately, but it was an older couple. They were in their 60s. They came in. It was a pretty contentious divorce. They did not like each other. Both of them wanted everything. And it took a lot of effort to finally reach a settlement. It was probably about a year and a half. So a year and a half, we're fighting. We're finally able to settle. We go in, we submit everything. In Massachusetts, you have a 30-day NICI period, which is kind of like the cooling off period. It's that one chance to work out your marriage before that absolute divorce, and then it's over. Just as caveat, it's not to change the agreement, but just to think about whether you want to be married. And this couple called me on day 29 and said, we want to stay married. Stop it. And I was like, we have today. So like we had to do emergency motions, rush into court, and we were like, they want to stay together.
Oh my God, I love it. It's like a movie. I got chills up and down my arms. I would have liked to be there with the camera for that one.
Yeah, so that was probably the most dramatic one. We've had ones where you know, people work it out in the middle, or they'll be going through it and then they decide that, you know, we just want to give this one more shot, and you know, we get rid of the divorce for them there. We've unfortunately had some cases where, you know, murder has played into it and it's terminated due to a spouse getting murdered. You know, so we've seen a lot, but I mean, that was a good one. So
the happy endings are always great. You know, and I wonder like how sometimes people might feel, because I'm very outspoken, obviously, and I'm on social media and, you know, all these other platforms and so on. And, you know, people sometimes think, oh, you're a man hater, or oh, you're whatever. And the truth is that I'm 100% for marriage, like 100%. And unfortunately in the family court, and people might have differing opinions, but over 15 plus years, I used to take equal amounts of moms and dads, until what I ended up experiencing, and I do it nationwide. So like you're in one state, I was like, wow, this is amazing. There's a lot of statistics that they're lying about. It's not the fatherless home. They're ripping children from mothers in like unprecedented numbers. And a lot of the dads that I was taking, they were like little bit into it. I started seeing these very horrific, abusive behaviors. And I'm talking really bad stuff that they were really well at hiding. And one of the key things I always look for is when a dad wants full custody. I can understand if she's on heroin or she's doing horrible things, but it's not normal. Like I come from a really good family, and the men I know in my life, and I have a lot of cousins and male figures in my family, and they would never dream of taking full custody from a mother. And I noticed that it kind of relates to an abuser will take full custody, or they'll use the court to continue to harm her in these domestic violence situations. So with that, I always enforce the fact that I am 100% for marriage. I am 100% for dads. I'm 100% for husbands. You know, I believe in it. That's my moral compass, you know, spiritual and everything. Do you run into that sometimes where people are like, oh, you know, you think this is capitalizing on divorce or anything? It's not. You know, I
Oh
don't want to
yeah.
answer
I
for it,
mean,
but
I get hate all the time. I think, especially since I started TikTok, I didn't know how much people hated me, but now I do. You know,
I said for those that are
but
watching, put your
but
question.
it all depends on
Yeah.
what the subject matter of my video is. And the way that I look at it, and I get asked the same question, who do you like to represent better, men or women? And I say, I don't care. I just don't want to represent the asshole.
Right,
I want to
exactly.
represent the person who's on the right side of the table.
Yeah.
And I do
Thank
disagree
God.
with you slightly in relation to, if dads want full custody, then they must be abusers. And I think that's a little stronger than what you were saying, because I've seen so many dads who have now taken over that primary custody or that primary caretaker role during the relationship because mom's earning more money, and so it makes more sense for them.
Yeah, like if she's
And
out,
so that's very similar to like when a mom comes
yeah,
in and says, I've been the primary caretaker this whole time, so I
yeah,
want to stay in that position.
yeah, that's
I
fine.
think you're right, and this is where within our firm we've built up a pretty strong intake. Like anyone who calls us has to go through our intake process
Us too.
because
Us
we
too.
screen out, people who we think are the assholes. And every once in a while,
I
they
love
get through. I had to fire a client today, actually. Every once in a while they get through, and you
Yeah. Oh
quickly
yeah.
see, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
You are the problem.
Yeah. 100%.
But
I saw that.
we try
I
not to
saw it
have
on your
those ones.
TikTok. I saw it on your TikTok. You said I saw that one. I hearted it. The one that you said, oh, when you find out your client's the problem,
Yeah.
you're the problem.
Yep.
I've run into them too. We do the same. We do a very intense I have intake specialists that get assigned to the case before I even do a consult. And we do a very strong screening, and it's the same thing. And I do agree with you. If he was always in the role of primary caretaker,
Mhm.
you obviously don't want to mess up that. I agree with that 100%. I'm talking in terms of like abusive dads. I'm talking in terms of those. And how they've milked the system for quite a long time, which I used to believe it too. I thought it was just a fatherless home, and that whole scenario of it's a deception really, that every child that lives in a single parent home without a dad, they become a drug addict, they're in prison, they're a murderer.
Yeah.
Those are foster care kids. Those are not, what a slap in the face to the one
Right.
parent home that's doing amazing work, with their
Well,
children.
and I've always thought that kids oftentimes, and there's anomalies, but oftentimes, oh, we got a question. That's exciting. Oftentimes it's kids bounce back and they're going to do as well as their parents support them to do. And that's where it becomes very difficult when you have one parent who wants, that co-parenting relationship. They want to be on the same page. They want to share in the duties, and they want to share in the responsibilities as well. And the other person only wants what they want. And it ends up in a situation where the person who isn't, the problem is either I need to bend over and take it, or I have to create boundaries and stand up for myself, which creates a very contentious situation. So it's a very hard situation to be in when you're dealing with a parent on the other side who's controlling, manipulative, narcissistic, you name it, they're there. And that's a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah, I have questions popping up now, and
I know this is fun.
This one is more of a statement saying those usually are the not contested cases. Let's go to Melanie's question for you, and I have another question right after that. Then we're going to go to an intermission, and then you're going to see my TikTok, because she's going to blind react to my TikTok. So you guys stay there. But we do want your questions and your whatever you want to ask for Heather. Here's Melanie. She's saying, what do you do when a judge forces you to co-parent with your abuser post-divorce? I don't know if this is a question for you, but that's also narcissistic, which we see this all the time. Things get worse post-divorce because of my corrupt judge in her particular situation.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do see this, and it ends up almost being where you see an abuse within the court system as well. It's usually somebody who is constantly threatening contempt, constantly threatening to go back and take you for everything. So they utilize the court system against the parent, and the parent feels like, I can't keep fighting. Like, we already went through this entire contentious, litigious process, and now you're threatening me if I don't give you what you want. And it's very, very difficult. I could spend hours and hours and hours talking about this subject, but I think one of the most important things is to get yourself either in with a really, really great therapist, a really, really great coach, and learn how to build boundaries that aren't about making the other person do what they're supposed to be doing, but building up yourself where you're not going to just bend over, you're not going to let the other person walk all over you, but in a healthy way. Because at the end of the day, you're teaching your child, what the other parent cannot. And I honestly believe I've had this conversation, I think actually twice this week, where I've heard the saying of divorce brings out the worst in you. But what I honestly believe is divorce brings out your true character. If you are somebody who is resilient, who rises above, you're going to come out of a divorce okay, even if it's, earth shattering and crushing. And somebody who's just, I'm trying to watch, I have a kind of dirty mouth, but like I'm trying to watch it. Somebody who is manipulative, controlling, all those things, you just see the worst in them. And I remember, sitting across the table from my ex-husband, and I looked at him and I go, every time I just don't think you can stoop any lower, you surprise me. And he goes, well, thank you. And I'm like, that wasn't a compliment. Like, what?
That's sad when he takes it as a compliment.
Yeah. And that's the mindset. So unfortunately, it's really, really difficult. It's important to have attorneys that do understand it. And I don't want to say the one thing, but if somebody walks into court and says, my ex is narcissistic and parental alienation, and you start using these buzzwords, you're going to get shut down. So it's really, you want to focus on the behaviors and how it's negatively affecting your children.
That's right. Thank you for that. That's really good. It's good wisdom right there. Here's one from Hannah, and then we're going to go to an infomercial after this one with the TikTok Blind React by Heather. This one says, Hannah, and she's actually my colleague and my assistant. She said, how do you handle cases where there are abusers being emboldened by the courts? We see this every day, and that is true. We do.
I mean, I see it every day, unfortunately. And again, this is where I think the system needs to change. And at some point, someday, I'm going to figure out how to do that. But hold on, let me look at the question one more time. I mean, one of the things I tell somebody who comes in and they have an extremely complicated case is this isn't a sprint. A lot of times you are running a marathon, and you have to run the marathon if you want to really take the other person down, and show them for who they are. That requires going to trial and getting them up on the stand and being able to pull out the lies, to pull out the mistruths, to really put your case out there. Now, there's a cost benefit analysis for everything. And if somebody just wants to have their story heard, that might not be enough to go to trial. So sometimes it's a matter of, what are you fighting for and why, as to where you want to get there. But unfortunately, a lot of times when you have somebody who has no problem walking into court and lying, where you stand in front of a judge and they hear you for 5, if you're lucky, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But a lot of times you're trying to summarize 20 years of your life within a 5-minute argument, and you're doing it to the stranger who hears the same story, 30 times a day and doesn't care, and that's a problem. So I think part of it is having your ducks in a row moving in and moving forward so that you're strategizing yourself correctly. Again, I honestly believe people who put a lot of work in themselves end up with better results legally. So I think focusing on you and not necessarily the things you can't control are going to be so incredibly.
Is it really, really good? Really good. A lot of wisdom there. A lot of wisdom there. And I think that's very beneficial to my view. I want to tell you that this is how we feel about your answers, and then we're going to go to an intermission. And
We'll be right back after a message from Punished for Protecting Incorporated. Each new generation of protective mothers is shocked when they first go to family court and find it doesn't favor single mothers and is willing to jeopardize children. Francesca's harrowing experience with the broken family court system, from which she finally received justice after 8 months of struggle, is proof that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Francesca has one of these unspeakably cruel cases and has responded by shining a large spotlight on widespread failures so other mothers won't be shocked. Punished for Protecting the Injustice System of Family Court by Francesca Amato Banfield, advocate, mother, whistleblower, founder, and TV talk show host of Punished for Protecting. If you are struggling with injustices wrought by our courts, this book will help guide you through the process. Available on Amazon.com. Search Punished for Protecting and get your copy today. Help abolish family court by purchasing Punished for Protecting merchandise. Here are our top sellers. See the link in the YouTube video description to find out how to get your Punished for Protecting t-shirt. Get your high-quality Punished for Protecting t-shirt while supplies last and let everyone know that you stand for justice. Are you being re-victimized by the family court system? Do you need help with your case? Go online and book a talk with Francesca. Go to punished4beingAparent.com/book-a-talk. Fill in your name, email address, and message to Francesca. Someone will get back to you within 24 hours. Francesca and her staff of volunteers continue to work tirelessly every single day for parents and children who are in need of their help. There have been multiple success stories, including Francesca's, which gives hope to others in similar situations. Punished for Protecting Incorporated has incurred out-of-pocket expenses with zero funding to help families get their children back or to save their children from being taken. We also have provided funds to help with retainers, food, lodging, and travel. We really need your help so we can continue to provide our many services. Any amount is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to donate or sponsor a family in need of help, go to Cash App, Free the Children. And now back to our broadcast.
Welcome back to Punished for Protecting. I'm here with Heather O'Connor, and very excited to have her on. Hello. We're going to do a blind react for her. That's something that I did, crazy me, on TikTok. And before I do, I just want to say there's more questions coming through. So guys, keep sending them in. I'm going to pick some for Heather to answer. But first, we're going to do a blind react. So hold on one second. You all may be seated. Today, we're going to continue the hearing for Smith versus Smith. It looks here on the docket that Mrs. Smith is not sending the children with their father. and she's not sending the children because she claims that they are being abused in his care. Mrs. Smith, what do you have to say for yourself? Your Honor, my children have been disclosing sexual abuse to the pediatrician, to the school, to CPS, and also to law enforcement. And I don't know what to do because they literally hold themselves to the ground and won't get in the car. They won't go, and I don't know. I just don't know. Silence, Mrs. Smith. I have a motion here from the child attorney that says that you are coaching these children because you don't want them with the father. So you're coaching these children according to the child attorney that has no psychological background whatsoever, but she knows this, even though she never talks to the children. So there. And also the children beg to go with their father, according to her, even though she doesn't call them up or spend time with them and talk to them. And she is certain that they want to go and that they love going there. So you need to be silent in this court.
Your Honor, I'm Mr. Smith, as you know, and Mr. Smith, I am, and let me tell you, Your Honor, I haven't done anything to my kids. You know, and so, you know, I mean, it's just like, I mean, she's just a bitch, and she's a liar, and she's crazy, Your Honor. She's crazy.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Thank you very much. I've noted all of that, Mr. Smith, and that is very appropriate for this court. And I've ordered it. I've ordered these visitation. I've ordered them. And you are going to follow it, or you're going to jail, Mrs. Smith. Do you understand? Do I make myself clear? Be quiet. Don't say a word. Now, that's how it's going to be. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I see the paperwork here. I see the doctor's reports. I see all of this, and it doesn't matter because I ordered it. So you have two choices, Mrs. Smith. You send these children, or he's getting full custody. Do I make myself clear?
But, Your Honor, I have this from the pediatrician. It says right here that there's been found sexual abuse of our daughter. And it's every time she leaves there. And then, Your Honor, I have from the hospital, doctor at the emergency room said that there's been sexual abuse to my daughter. And they called CPS because they were concerned right after a visit with the dad. And, Your Honor, I've got literally stacks, Your Honor, stacks. Your Honor, I just want to say too, like the bruises that are on my kids, that's because they fight with each other. It has nothing to do with me. And also, Your Honor, I don't have a job and I can't drive because I had my license taken away. So I have more time to spend with these kids. Your Honor, I should have full custody because she's crazy, Your Honor. She's a liar and she's crazy, Your Honor.
Well, and I also see here that CPS found absolutely nothing wrong. They found absolutely nothing wrong. They had a 22-year-old CPS caseworker come to speak to Mr. Smith, and she believes him. And even though the children did disclose terrible things, and I mean terrible things, she believes him, and she's CPS, so she knows better. She knows best, and Mom is a liar. We're going to say that Mom is a liar here because mothers lie. They just lie. That's what they do. And she's probably coaching the child. So I'm just going to, here's what I'm going to do. Here's my new order. I'm going to order that the children live full time with the father and that Mom has supervised visitation because she's a liar and she coached the children. And the bruising and all that, as Mr. Smith said, is very clear. The children beat each other up in his care. So he's never laid a finger on them. So there's evidence right there. There's perfect evidence right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him full custody because he's home all the time, like he just said. And he's a good father, obviously, because he's there all the time. So, and he doesn't have a license or a car. So that's good because then they won't go anywhere. So the mother won't have to worry about them being out traveling or anything like that. And it would be in the best interest of these children to live with the father and Mom have supervised visits because, as he said, she's crazy. So she must be crazy. After all, she's making up stuff that he's doing harmful things to the children because she, for whatever reason, and she's, she's combative here in court, and she's just too emotional. I mean, look at her. She's just an emotional basket case as if something was wrong. And it's just an awful, awful thing. And so that's going to be my new order, that she has supervised visitation And I think that also, that not only does she have supervised visitation, but that she pays Mr. Smith child support. That she pays Mr. Smith. I understand you're on, ma'am. I understand you're on a very fixed income and you're on disability. I understand that. But he has a drinking problem and he needs to be able to pay for his alcohol. And he has cigarettes too. So he needs to be able to pay for that, Miss Smith. And you've caused all this problem with your fake stories and your stack of evidence from a doctor of all things. And we know that that's not true because we didn't evaluate. The court itself didn't send to the evaluators. You just paid off these doctors, I'm sure of it. So he gets full custody. That's how it's going to be. I hope you get it. I hope you understand. And maybe you'll learn your lesson. Maybe you'll learn that lesson. And you need to learn that lesson. You need to learn that lesson. You understand? Now you just be silent in my courtroom. This is my courtroom. This is my courtroom, and I run this courtroom the way I know I have broad discretion to do whatever I want. And so in the best interest of these children, they will live full-time with their dad. You will have supervised visits because you make up stories, even though that's not on any of the state's reasons for supervised visitation. But I can do whatever I want because I wear a black robe. See this black robe? I wear a black robe, so I can do whatever I want, okay? So I'm doing what I want right now. And I'm going to do this because the father's rights, that's what they said I should do. And that's what I'm going to do because we get lots of money, financial funding. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. And then I could go do my drinking and my alcohol and my drugs that I do because I have no heart. So because I have no heart, I've got to sort of, hide the any kind of emotions that may come up, especially when it comes to sleeping at night because I make these decisions that I make. So, Mr. Smith, today you will have full custody. You will have full custody, and Mrs. Smith, you will have supervised visits, and his counsel will prepare that court order. You'll prepare that court order. Justice has been served today for sure. And Mr. Smith, since you're home all the time and you don't drive because you don't have a license, and you've had numerous DWIs. You are more of a responsible parent in all of this because you're there. You're the one that's going to be there. While Mrs. Smith is on disability and even though she works and she does certain things, she can't be there for the children. And maybe this will keep her mind. Maybe you can get more of a job or something that'll keep your mind off of the things that you think Mr. Smith is doing that you're making up in this courtroom. And now you'll get some supervised visitation with your children. And also, I want you to put in that court order that you need to refrain her from saying "I love you" to the children. She can't say "I love you." She needs to pay whatever the fees are, even though it's double dipping because it's a nonprofit supervised visit program that we're going to make her go through. They can keep an eye on her. There'll be no hugging. You won't tell them what happened. Okay, you can't tell them what's going on. You can't reassure them of your love and everything, even though you claim they're kicking and screaming and crying and don't want to go live with Mr. Smith. So now you make them think and believe that their mother just don't want them and she can only see them because she's got lots of problems. That's how we're going to handle it. And it really is the best thing to do here because let me explain something to all of you. So what happens is now we can generate the next juvenile delinquents so that we have all your family for many years to come and we can continue to bring in the funding. You get it? That's how we do it. We bring in the funding and we continue this charade that we're doing, right? So that's how it's going to be. So thank you very much, everybody. I have now made my order. Court is adjourned. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You all may be seated. So, it's parody, obviously, but this is what I see. I've seen this for over 15 years, and I have very close relationships with my clients. We get deeply involved with our clients' families and so on and so forth. And this is what I see all over the country. Obviously, some of it's not that extreme in behavior, but sometimes it is, believe it or not. And you're shocked at the end of the day that that's the decision the judge made. It's completely opposite of what any normal, rational person would do. Go ahead. You did the blind react.
First, That was friggin' brilliant. Like, that was so great. And I
That's
may
what did
steal
me.
it and do it on my own TikTok.
We should do one together.
I'll credit you. No, that was amazing. And it's so true. Yet the only thing you forgot was the suspended sentence if mom, speaks ill of dad for the review hearing later on. I think it's the only part you might have not cracked in there. But it's a really, really frustrating thing because judges have so much discretion that a lot of times it comes down to what issue you're taking in front of the judge and where they stand in it. And we've seen cases, I've had cases come in where, and I'll say this, you never really know what's going on behind closed doors, but we'll be working with, a dad. We'll be working with a dad who then hires us because mom's threatening to take kids, threatening to leave, so we've been in the picture. We kind of know what's going on. We go through, we serve. Literally, I had a case, got served. Within 30 seconds, she was on the phone and dad was not home. He hadn't been home all weekend, was on the phone within 30 seconds, calling the police and alleging rape. And so you have that situation, but then we just had a woman who desperately needed a restraining order, desperately needed it. And the way that, and I'm not one, restraining orders are not to be used as a strategy. I'm not that person. It actually pisses me off when I hear, somebody being like, restraining orders will get me the house and the kids. Like, that's a big no. But there's people out there who need it, and they need it to be taken seriously. And we had a case where, she checked every single box, and we had pictures, we had videos, like we had evidence that this abuse was going on. The judge threw it out because she waited 1 week to report it.
I see it every day. It drives me bananas. And, don't get me wrong. I had this one woman right to my face say to me, oh yeah, I've done that before. I beat myself up, gave myself a couple black eyes. I wanted to choke her because I deal with so many real victims of DV. It's like it's scum like you that hurt like 90% of the women that get treated as liars, and it just drives me bananas. Let's go to some of these questions that people have for you, because obviously it's only an hour show and I really want to be able to have you answer. Hold on for my dogs. So we have here, let's see. Which one should we pull up here? Oh, she said despicable, but at least you made me laugh, Fran. Thanks.
That was so good.
You can imagine, like, I'm doing this 24/7. So imagine I'm out, I'm doing my errands in the evening, and I'm stewing this in my head. Come home, and I said, let me try it. I've never done it, but let me try it. So we have, this person, there was a really good one I saw. Oh, well, this lady said, do you ever do pro bono work? And just remember, she is in Massachusetts. So she wants to know if you did pro bono work.
We do very limited pro bono work. When we do it's not for a full divorce because we never know what's walking in the door. We could have a divorce come in that we're able to resolve very quickly, or we could have a divorce that I still have a case going on. It was a 2.5 year marriage. They're in year 5 of their divorce. Cannot get them divorced. So because of that, family law is very difficult to do pro bono, but we've done things like we do more volunteering our time with like Lawyer of the Day programs or Call a Lawyer program. So those are all free programs that different organizations within our community have that we volunteer our time for. And then, we have had some cases come in. I don't like to say this because then we get an outpouring of people wanting free legal work, and we are in it to also make money. But
right, of course.
But we have had some cases where we might go in for 1 day, or we might help with paperwork. So we've done things like that, but really more of our pro bono stuff is our.
It's so hard. I can fully relate, because we do a lot of free stuff, and sometimes past a person's retainer, we just stay on for a long time after, because I know they're out of money or whatever, and because I'm already vested, I'm already like, I want to see children safe, so I can totally relate. But sometimes people don't understand, cases could take years. They can't do, and it takes away from a paying client, and then it takes away from our mortgage or whatever, But all right, here's another one. Let's see, this one I thought was good. What can I file to get fraud investigation for child support? specifically something, I don't know if this was a typo, X claims X claims son 6 years, my sister adopted, same court, he is still claiming son. I'm not sure I understand that fully.
So I think I get where they're coming from. So basically, I'm not sure in relation to the child support child support. I was thinking more like taxes. So basically the sister adopted, so he's claiming son. So the sister adopted, he's still claiming, and he's somehow getting child support for it. Usually you can bring that right into court with a complaint to terminate the child support and then seek the payments back. I don't know what state you're in, and very, very large disclaimer, I'm only in Massachusetts. I don't know the laws of any other state. I can only know the laws of the places that I practice, and that's Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So for you, I'm not 100% sure, but my guess would be you can file something in court, or if it's going through, like in our state agency is called DOR. So it's the Department of Revenue Child Support Enforcement Division. If you called them and showed them that the sister actually had legal custody of the child because she had adopted, DOR would probably step in that situation. No, I can't hear you.
I always mute myself because I have pugs and they like to go when I'm live. Always. It's like, I don't know what it is. They're like little kids and they get really, really close to me when I'm live. They could be about the house all day when I'm working, but when I'm live, like, come here, show yourself, come here, because I know you're upset that I'm live. See this one? He literally would be inside my body if I let him.
That's funny.
This one said, happened to me. I have all the proof of abuse and neglect. I don't think it's a question though. And could never get a restraining order granted. Oh, because you mentioned, right. Even my son's medical chart states child abuse by father, yet she's bouncing off of what you said before.
Yeah.
I'm the one they target.
And it's really frustrating. The thing with the medical chart is, because I know how to argue both sides, if somebody's coming in and it's been reported to the doctor, the argument is it's because mom's reporting it. So that's why it's in there. When you're dealing with, and this is the same thing when your child comes home and they tell you something that's extremely concerning, it's really important to report that in the right way so that it can't be turned around against you to have it made to look like you're the one influencing it. And, it really is very fact specific and case specific. So it's not this is what you do. Here's steps 1, 2, and 3. It depends on, the totality of the circumstances, but it's really important to protect yourself as well when you're bringing your child in who's reporting some sort of abuse or neglect or, anything that's going on that's wrong. Because if you don't do it right, unfortunately, it can be used against you.
And I see, and I use the word corruption often, and I know maybe people get desensitized by the word, but that's what I see a lot where, like, first of all, children should always be listened to. And it's really hard to coach, especially very willful children. Today's teenagers and even like middle school kids, they're not easily pushed around. If they want or don't want something, they're going to say it. What really, really saddens me as a child abuse and domestic violence, advocate, is when children disclose and then they'll go to their therapist and disclose, and the therapist will say, listen, this did happen. Maybe we don't have evidence, like physical evidence or what have you. Or I've had cases where in this one specific case, a little girl with her dad, and there were multiple babysitters instead of letting the mother have access. And the mother did nothing wrong. She literally wanted to see why this child was getting 2 years worth of urinary tract infection. The pediatrician said there's definitely sexual abuse going on here. And of course, everybody reported it. Mom got in trouble for reporting and lost all custody of her child. And they throw this word around. Coaching. How do you coach a 2-year yeast infection or urinary tract infection? You can't do that. Or redness or soreness or all these things that go on. And they're doing these botched investigations that they have. They'll have like a wet behind the ears CPS worker that's 20 come in and not have any background whatsoever to be doing this type of forensic, you know what I'm saying? Like it's insanity. And it puts us in this baffled position where they don't even want to hear or see the evidence that's in front of them. And what do you do with situations like that? Like you're saying, you could argue on like both sides, you know.
And it's a difficult situation because for every real case out there, and I don't want to say for every, but there obviously are very real cases out there where that stuff is happening. And unfortunately, there's also cases where somebody is being coached and they're being told to say certain things. So it becomes very difficult. You know, it's almost like when people get sent to, you know, life in prison or the death penalty because they didn't have the right evidence on their side. You know, so it's a very difficult thing because there's some cases, and again, you know, this is where we screen heavily. They are lying, you know, and they are making that up. And there's certain things that lead to the conclusion, no, you can't make up a urinary tract infection. But there was a case where, you know, mom was actually the one that was abusing the child and then blaming it on dad, you know. So unfortunately, it's the same thing when people abuse restraining orders. That's why I hate liars. Like, I hate people who are willing to lie because it hurts the people who are really going through those situations, because then, you know, it makes it so that, hey, is this a real case? You know, is this person telling the truth? And unfortunately, you know, it shouldn't be that way, but it is, because there's people out there that they don't care who they hurt. They don't care if they hurt their kids. And that's really, really sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. And the whole thing, like I had a show on a few broadcasts back where we had a video that was shown talking about the what is it called? I don't know what you can call it, but like the personalities, I guess, of a sociopath.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, oh my gosh, like, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. It's like, I mean, I've met some very nice judges, don't get me wrong, which actually kind of shocked me because it took years before I saw some. That's the truth. And I've been in courts all over the country, and I've seen some nasty, unbiased, you know, they're not even regulated. They're just clear. It's so obvious what they're doing. It's obvious. You'd have to be blind and deaf and have your brain taken out to not see how bad. But like, but they literally, when the psychologist went over all, you know, the personality traits of a sociopath, I was like, oh my gosh, like these judges check every single mark, you know. It's like, and I was in a class once with a bunch of judges, and they had this woman, the counselor, psychologist there talking to them. And I was ready for them to say, yes, it hurts me very bad. I can't sleep at night because I put a child in the hands of somebody who murdered the child or whatever, some horrible thing. And unfortunately, these are not isolated cases either. These are like all over the place. And instead, all they were talking about was they were hurt and upset. And she was a really good therapist, I thought. And I said, the only thing I could think of is she's kind of using reverse psychology on them to try to get them to have a heart and compassion, because that is an indication of narcissism to not. And basically, every judge that I watch, I literally was like in shock. All he would say was, it just upsets me so much that they don't follow my orders. It's like when a mother is like, and I'm talking about literally, I'm not talking about some crazy person.
Right.
When a mother, I mean, my parents are PhDs, and, you know, they're amazing human beings, articulate, intelligent, clean background mothers. And they're literally in tears, bawling their eyes out when they're showing me bruises all over their child's body and burn marks and cigarette holes and all this stuff when they get them back. Okay. And how it kills them every time they're going or whatever, or they're being completely restrained from anything whatsoever. Like I said, this one mother who, it's been years now, it's been like 3 years, her daughter's completely in the care of the father. The child goes through multitudes of babysitters and all kinds of horrible stuff. And you can see the child's regression. You can see it like on the child during supervised video chats. It's insane. Mm-hmm. And this mother's got nothing wrong with her at all. And so, but what was I saying? But the sociopathic like backgrounds of these judges, and then to watch them, and they not one said it hurt me so badly that I drink every night because, you know, this child died and that child was abused and I made the wrong decision. I didn't make the right decision. Okay. Or you hear judges say, well, the child, for some reason, by the grace of God, goes back to the protective parent. And I'll hear the judge say, well, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I feel right about that because And I'm like, you didn't care about how you ripped the child away in the first place and placed the child. So
Right.
now you care about sending the child back where the child could be nurtured and heal up and have a chance in life. It's so backwards. I just like, do you see that when like,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
more,
I respect a lot of the judges, not all of them, and I'm not going to name names. I don't want them to know if I don't like them because I have to be in front of them. But you know, there's also a number of judges who I do truly respect.
it's my job to name names.
And I've been one of the judges. He's not a practicing judge anymore. He's more in charge of the courts, but he's constantly after me. He's like, when are you going to put your application to be a judge in? When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And great. I said to him the last time he asked me, I said, Judge, don't ask me again. I'm not going to do it. Where I want to go with change is beyond me sitting in a bench. But what I want to do is utilize my firm to train attorneys who are ethical, who are passionate, who understand it, and let them be judges.
Yes. I love it. And that's what's needed. I mean, and we're going to be wrapping soon, but there is something called judge school. I don't know if you have it in Massachusetts, but it's literally called judge school. I've heard judges talk about it, but they say they don't have court. They're going to be in judge school. So of course I do my investigation background stuff, and they're literally taught that all mothers lie if they report abuse, period. That's it. And the statistics are less than 6%. So the rest of the percentage are treated as if they're liars. And that's a very horrible thing. That's a very, very horrible thing. And like the one that you met that was truly an abuser, and like the one I met that was truly an abuser, they are ruining it for everybody else. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's a lot of abuse going on in this country. There's a lot of mental health. I call it psychological injury, because I wanted to have a separate connotation from real abusive type of mental health that would not be covered by the federal codifications under the Americans with Disability Act. So if you're a federally protected and qualified class member, you're a safe person. You just have injury versus a sociopath, a borderline, a criminal mental illness, those types. But unfortunately, in this country, due to multiple reasons, which I can get into, I don't have enough time now, there are a lot of people that are very dangerous out there that aren't safe for children and so on and so forth. And a lot of people marry them, they get that divorce or they break up with the relationship, whether it was a marriage or not, and find themselves in family court being re-abused and re-victimized.
Yep. Yeah, it's a cycle. It's a cycle that needs to stop. And for us, we are kind of known as a very high conflict firm. So you say 6% in my life, it's almost like Jerry Springer in my life every single day, because that's what we're known for. We're known, the people who are having those problems with somebody either lying or, they're on that end of it where they're like, we need help and we don't know what else to do. Those are the people who really come to us. It's nice when we get, a nice divorce, because then it's not as emotional. Of course. But we deal with those situations quite a bit, and it's both sides, both men and women, mothers and fathers, both of them can be equally as much assholes as the other. It's a character issue. It's a character and a mental health issue, really.
Yeah, 100%. But I really appreciate you coming on and really enjoyed the interview, and love to have you come back again. And
I would love that, because this went by so quick.
It went by so fast. It goes by quickly. I'm being looked at by a couple of networks, and I'm undecided about one of them, because in one of them there cannot be any vulgarity, and I try to be really careful with my mouth. I used to never swear, and then I got to this point where I was so upset over some of the cases. I was like, oh my God, I don't believe what just came out of me, and I would try so hard to stop, and it would still, I'd be like so angry. But I've learned now, and I'm doing a lot better. So, but
yeah, I do during my interview process. I'm like, are you okay with the F word?
Yeah, are you okay with this?
Because if you're not, you might not want to work here.
Yeah. Be here for, especially when that's on but. But it was really nice having you. One last time, everybody, you can see Heather at O'Connor Family Law on TikTok, but also on Twitter,
Instagram, Facebook.
Facebook.
I think even Twitter, but I don't think we're really doing much on there anymore. I don't know. I think that it pretty much all our social media, I think, is that.
So just look for her there. And if you're in Massachusetts and you need an attorney, there you got that way. I hate when I do that. There you got one right there. There she is.
Over there.
And with a personality. So again,
All right, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time, and I hope everybody was able to learn a little something and make their night better.
thank you so much, Heather. It's been a pleasure. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.